This episode is brought to you in partnership with Missouri State University Theater and Dance. MSU offers a multitude of theater and dance degree programs to give its students the tools to excel in the industry, including BFAs in acting, musical theater, dance, and design, as well as a BA and BS program for theater studies, dance, and speech and theater education. MSU alums get work and are well known throughout the industry as hard workers, amazing performers, and the finest designers and technicians. With alumni like John Goodman and Kathleen Turner and faculty members with major credits on both Broadway and in Hollywood, MSU has no shortage of credentials and a fantastic network of graduated students. MSU Theater and Dance, where conservatory quality meets the liberal arts. Hello everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the CurtainCast. I'm your host Stephen Horn, and we are back at it. I am looking to get into more consistent episodes. You guys saw our first vodcast release with the Secret Garden episode where we interviewed Hayden Hart and the incredible Broadway star Bob Westenberg. So that's a really good show. Make sure you check that one out if you haven't. And today, we are not done with the Broadway stars, because today we are interviewing Lisa Brescia. That's right, incredible artist who actually just finished up on Broadway not too long ago as the mother in Dear Evan Hansen, Evan's mom. She absolutely crushed that role and got sort of rave reviews, and is just generally known as an awesome person. So, yeah, look forward to this interview here, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the heck out of the way and start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the CurtainCast. This is going to be a bit of a different episode. We've got a special interview here. We've got some memoirs, if you will, some stories, some legends, some myths from one of Broadway's most beloved classic shows, Wicked. I guess, I don't know, it depends on how you define classic, but it's definitely a modern hit. And joining me today to talk about her experience, both on Broadway and off with Wicked, is the amazing Lisa Brescia. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm glad to be here.
Great. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump right into it here. I'd love to hear about some of your, I guess, prior experience to the show. I guess how you got started on Broadway in the first place, and how you kind of maneuvered through life in New York leading up to Wicked.
Well, we don't have time for all that,
right.
But I certainly did have quite a few years before Wicked. I suppose it was 2007 when I got in there. And so I moved to New York in 1988 when I was 18 years old. So I had a couple decades there. The first several years, I was so young. I put myself through conservatory there and got some really strong acting training. And then worked with a band for a while. So I was learning, my singing chops were getting stronger, traveled the world with this band. And then by the time I got to the late 90s, I really wanted to up my game in terms of my opportunities for musical theater work. So I got a great voice teacher, thank goodness for her, and I got a great acting teacher for acting through song, because I was trained as a straight play actress and really was at a loss when it came to musical theater auditions, rep, all of that. My training was focused on acting. So I got the right teachers, and I don't know, I started to feel like I absolutely had a place at the table. I started to feel these sort of insecurities lessen considerably with the good training I was getting. So in 2000, well actually 1999, I heard that Jesus Christ Superstar, the revival, well, one of the revivals, was going to happen, and I just knew that I was supposed to be in it. I don't know why, I just had this feeling. And I listened to the cast album over and over leading up to the audition, and I worked hard on my preparation. lined up at 6 in the morning for a chorus call. At this point, I had gotten my equity membership by doing some children's theater, which was a blast, by the way. So then I got there at 6 in the morning to sign up. Nobody else showed up to be number 2 on the list until 8 o'clock. So for 2 hours, I stood there by myself. I just was really determined to be seen for this. And I just kind of knew. I don't know how I knew, but I did. So they were typing people out. I didn't get typed out, thank goodness. And I had 5 auditions total. So I had 4 callbacks.
Oh,
and the last one was at a theater in the Village. I can't remember, maybe the Vineyard. And I just remember being on stage. It was on stage in a theater, and the creative team was out in the house, and the director was asking me questions. I did my material, and I left, and I got the job. And in fact, it ties right into Wicked, because I got this call when I was at my office job, and I may have mentioned this on the last time we met for your podcast, but I got this call while I was sitting at my survival job, which was in a corporation, and they said, hey Lisa, this is so-and-so from Jesus Christ Superstar. Congratulations, we want you in our show. And I couldn't believe my ears. So I actually said, wait, back up a second. You want me to be in your show? And he kept saying yes. And wait, you want me to be in the show? And so it was very funny. I wish that I could have had that, videotaped for the record, because I couldn't believe it. And of course I did the very excited dance in the bathroom with my girlfriend afterwards, like, come with me in the bathroom, I've got news. Anyway, the way that ties into Wicked is years later, I'm in the show and I'm preparing for the show, and as a method actress of sorts, I was drawing upon my own experience, and Elphaba has this moment in early in Act 1, where she has she catches the attention of Madame Morrible, and through her gifts, and Madame Morrible is like, I'm excited about you, and you could, if you play your cards right, kitten, you could meet the wizard, and that's sort of like meeting the emperor of the universe, this mythical being. And so she's gone from feeling completely alienated and being mistreated and undervalued to being offered this opportunity and feeling a surge of self-esteem and a surge of hope. And that was what I experienced in that cubicle at that office. So all I would do is time travel back in my head to sitting at my desk at that cubicle and getting that phone call, and it prepared me for that song.
Incredible.
Yeah. And after Superstar, I went on to do some leads in regional theater, which was also wonderful, and got the AIDA National Tour as the Amneris standby. And I have earned my way into parts many times, starting as the standby and then making myself hopefully valuable to them, and them seeing that, let's consider her for the role. And so I've done that a bunch, and Aida was the first I replaced on the tour, and came to New York and did the role on Broadway. We closed the show in 2004, and then did a couple of other Broadway shows. One was The Woman in White by our very own Andrew Lloyd Webber, where again I was the cover, and I went on 40% of the time because of an illness by the woman who was playing the lead, Maria Friedman, incredible London talent. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and needed immediate surgery and then treatments through our short run. So I went on a lot and really learned a ton, including how important it is to prepare, even if you think you may never go on. I had prepared all through the rehearsal process, and I was put on after maybe our 7th preview, which is really very rare for an understudy to go on in previews. So it's important to study, and I had listened to every note that Trevor Nunn had given to Maria, and I studied on my own every night. So I was ready, and it was kind of a miracle that things went off okay. Afterwards, Andrew Lloyd Webber tracked me down as I was out on my way out the building, and he said, it was a Broadway fairy tale, Lisa. Well done. So that was exciting. And then I did a Twyla Tharp show, and that's where Joe Mantello, the director of Wicked, saw me on stage for the first time. So Joe came to a performance of that production, The Times They Are A-Changin', music of Bob Dylan, choreography by the famous Twyla Tharp. And even though we only ran a few short weeks, he was there and he said, I want to see her for Elphaba. I had gone in for Elphaba before, but only for the creative, the musical creative team members. And to be frank, my voice is more of a string instrument than a trumpet. and really, I mean, I came to vocal training late comparatively to other actors in musical theater. So I didn't really feel like my voice was spot on perfect for this score. For the Dylan show, it was perfect. For Aida, it was perfect. It was not easy, but it was really a great fit. Whereas Elphaba, it is a beast to sing. And I remember running into Sutton Foster on 8th Avenue before I started, and we were colleagues and friends, and she said, oh gosh, you're going into Elphaba. I mean, she said, I could sing that one time, and that would be that. And I said, you are so full of baloney, Sutton, you could sing anything. However, you know, and then a lot of other women I would run into who knew Elphaba's actresses, and they were like, oh, strap in, get ready, you know.
You're
and
like buckling up. You're like, oh
yeah.
boy, here we go.
Well, I can tell you, but preparing for so I went in for Joe Mantello. He called me in, and I remember sitting in the waiting room of Bernie Telsey's office and knowing so many wonderful singers there and actresses there, and hearing gorgeous voice after gorgeous voice singing from the audition room, and turning to another woman I didn't know, and I was like, gosh, I don't even know if I want this job. This is crazy. Right. And she just smiled and thought I was weird. And then she went in and she was killing it. And her name is Marcy, and I believe she went on to play the Green Girl for quite a long time, both on tour or San Francisco and Broadway. I can't remember. She was just incredible. And she had flown in from Los Angeles, and her luggage that was in the waiting room at Telsey, she had come from the airport.
Wow. And
her luggage toppled, including her tote bag with everything in it. And I got up and I put everything back into her bag, and I put it back, and I made sure that her stuff was okay. So when she came out of the room, she was supported that way. And I didn't say anything to her about it, but I remember thinking in my own head, that's why I'm here. I'm here to take care of this woman who just flew in for this audition, and she has her bags. And I thought, okay, if this isn't my job, which I don't know that it is, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help her with her bags. And then I went in and I did my audition, and I think I sang the end of Wizard and I did the scene with Fierro into I'm Not That Girl and called it a day. And I remember I went to work that night at The Times They Are A-Changin', which was still running. And I said to the beloved Michael Arden, who's now a Broadway director, who was my co-star, he was one of the leads in Times They Are A-Changin'. I said, I don't know, I just don't think, I don't think I'm going to get that. And he said, I've heard otherwise, wink, wink. And I was like, okay, whatever, shut up. And on Monday, this was a Friday, on Monday, I got the call that I was being hired for Wicked. And I just started preparing. I sang through that score with my voice teacher, twice a week for the weeks leading up to rehearsals, during rehearsals, and I, of course, learned the lines and learned the score, and I sang it over and over in my bedroom in Jersey, and my husband would be in the other room just listening to me, Bill Wizard, and oh gosh darn it, I would start be cursing in there like, I need to release this tension, I need some tea, but I eventually, definitely developed some stamina leading into it, and then started rehearsals. Rehearsals were basically with the stage manager regarding blocking, with the dance supervisor, any kind of musical staging, with the understudies for all the other principals, and they were tremendous. Every individual in that company was generous and kind and present. And I worked a lot on my own because on the fourth floor of the Gershwin Theater, there's an entire space, a rehearsal studio that is taped out like the stage on, down 4 flights down on stage. So
Right.
I knew exactly where to go. I could
Right.
rehearse and walk through it, run through it, and just go over it again and again and again. And so that's what I did. Even after I was hired and was in the show, I would go up there at least, if I didn't go on at all that week, I would at least run through it 4 to 6 times per week just to keep my stamina up.
Wow.
So that's how I got there.
Incredible. Incredible. So let's see here. In terms of playing iconic characters, right? This is, this character Elphaba is so well known to so many people. If not, simply as, the character from Wicked, going back, almost a century as the Wicked Witch of the West, right? What was it like stepping into the role of like someone with that much, I guess, lore about them and so much sort of storied history? Did you find that it was better for you to just kind of make it your own, or to kind of incorporate mostly kind of what had come before?
I think it was a combination. I think they had a very clear idea of what they wanted. And Adina, I remember sitting in the audience watching her. I was there. My husband is a good friend of Steve Schwartz, so we were there for a night, the Dramatists Guild honoring Stephen, and we were there to preview along with all the other council members of the Dramatists Guild who were there to support Stephen. And there was a party afterwards and everything. And I remember sitting there watching the show and laughing at such witty dialogue. The book is so brilliant, and all of the clever references to the Wizard of Oz. And now, it's this iconic show that most people know back to back, but this was very new at the time. It was, in previews on Broadway. So I remember sitting there and leaning over to my husband and going, she is still singing. That woman is still singing. Because she had song after song after song, and I was just like, Adina, who I knew from very long ago, earlier in the 90s from Rent. So I had been on the periphery of that production through my relationship at the time. So I just couldn't believe the amount of singing she was pulling off, and it was such brilliance. And I thought she was doing so beautifully as an actress, and I was so impressed. I was impressed with everyone in the show, and but I remember going, "Gosh, I don't think I could do that." I really didn't think I could do that. So it wasn't as iconic as it is now when I stepped into it, because it was 2006. I think the show opened 2004, and so maybe 2.5 years later, I was going in for it and booking it. So there weren't that many people who had played it before. Julia Murney was in it at the time that I went into it. I'd known Julia for a couple of years already. And so I treat it like I would any other job where I was stepping into a currently running show as the lead role. I took a lot of rigorous notes from my rehearsals, as well as from observing the show over and over and over again. But I also did my own process. And so for me, and my Acting 4 students can attest to this, I have a very involved process, like most actors do, I think, but it involves a lot of writing and imagination. And so first I basically write out everything that any other characters say about me, Elphaba. So I write it all out, I type it out. Thank goodness I'm a fast typist, because there's a lot in the script of people talking about Elphaba. And then I write down everything that Elphaba says about Elphaba, everything I say about myself in the script. And then I start writing questions for myself about the given circumstances. So obviously background from early childhood up to this present moment, lots of details. And then I write out all the questions and then I start answering them. And I found it today. I actually looked it up and I'm showing Stephen
Holy
right
cow.
now. It's pages and pages. I don't know, maybe 30 pages back to back, single spaced, of answering questions about Elphaba and her life. So, for instance, the first daughter of governor of Munchkinland was my first question. Like, where is their home? What's it like? And I wrote this, like, our home is just outside the capital of Munchkinland in Eckerland, a medium-sized village filled with normal-looking middle to upper-class people. Normal-looking meaning they don't have green skin. Although the outlying areas has poorer residents who usually fulfill the service positions needed, servants, store clerks, etc. Population of about 10,000 people, including 5,000 munchkins. It's small, but it's all I've ever known. And then I go on to describe where I'm from. How much younger is Nessa? Do I remember mother? Who raised us? What actions or behavior did father do to let me know that he hated me and that he blamed me for Nessa and our mother's, for Nessa, her injury, her condition, and our mother's death? What has been my schooling before Shiz? How did I end up coming here? How old am I? How old is Nessa? And it's just pages and pages of writing. And that's what I do with every character I play. Anything I mention in the play, any circumstances I'm in the play, I write on them extensively. And so that makes me feel really grounded in the character. And so I didn't turn to anyone else to answer these questions for me, unless it was really important that I was clear on a certain moment in the show what I was talking about, so that I would be faithful to Joe Mantello's vision and make sure that I wasn't off track in my thinking about a moment or a relationship with another character, etc. And that kind of rigorous writing is what makes it my own, as well as then what happens to all of us, right? When we're in rehearsal, we start to feel the character seep into the bone marrow. She just kind of sinks in, and then she's just in me, and I'm in her. I could definitely relate and identify with her, even though I don't understand what it's like to be a person of color at all. I do know what it's like to feel alienated, to feel bullied, to feel shame of who I am, to look in the mirror with self-hatred. I mean, what teenage girl doesn't go through that? Everybody goes through their own pain and their own difficulty of just being a human being walking around the planet without, whatever traumas they have, whatever pain they have, loss, personal struggles, anxiety, depression, dealing with crises, family issues, relationship issues, self-esteem issues. I can always draw upon a whole host of wonderfully complex experiences and feelings that I've had in my life in order to inhabit any character. It just takes time and work, and eventually all I had to do was sit in that makeup chair and remember and put on the costume and the shoes, and I would be standing off stage, or upstage actually, behind this wall that the doors would open, and I would run on with my suitcase, and I would look around with wonder at that Shiz University, and full of hope, and I could identify with that as a young woman who came to New York and walked into first day of conservatory training and looked around and thought, oh, I could belong here. I might learn something here. Maybe they saw something in me and I have a place here, and I could magnify that by 1,000 and feel very comfortable as Elphaba in that moment.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I really like the idea of that sort of encyclopedic deep dive into the given circumstances of the character. Just completely random off-topic question. Did you ever read the actual book it was based on?
I did. It was loosely based on that book, and I found it to be really fascinating, but unhelpful in terms of the show because it was so different. But I did read it. I enjoyed it very much, but I waited to read it until after I was out of the show because I had heard that it wouldn't necessarily serve me
Right.
read it before doing the show or
Like
while
a
doing the show.
political intrigue thriller. Like, oh, this is not what I'm in right now at all. But yeah, I was just curious. We've already talked a little bit about sort of the logistics of like the makeup and all that stuff. How long did all that take, like pre-show?
I liked them to start working on me at 20 after, so 40 minutes before places. They would start with the green, and it was a whole process. There was so much involved, and I would have to make sure that my fingernails were green, the green nail polish they provided me, and sometimes I would paint my own hands, and they would then use this finishing powder on them. But I needed to put on, I don't remember what I was wearing in the makeup chair. I feel like I had to put on the green unitard thing that I wore. But I don't remember. It's so long ago. I just remember sitting there and the green would go all the way down my chest. So I think, oh, that's what it was. Basically, forgive me for saying TMI, but basically I'd sit there in my bra and then, they would paint the upper back all like down the chest and the whole neck, up into the hairline in the back, up into that hairline all through the ear. The ear was painted, and then way back into the top hairline. So my hair was always a little bit green. Yeah. So I know there are other Elphabas out there who can relate to just always being slightly green or looking a little ill. So they would, the makeup itself is from MAC, the makers of makeup, MAC, M-A-C, and they make primary colors and water-based makeup. So it would be this paintbrush that they would use, and then a smoothing brush, and then a finishing powder, which was you had to hold your breath in order to not inhale it, and then they would start doing all the contouring to make sure that you actually looked like you had features. Jimmy, the makeup person at the time, was a genius, and Chris Clark, who's now a television hair supervisor, I believe he's won some Emmys. Yeah, or even Golden Globes for certain miniseries. He was the hair person at the time, and the dresser, Kathy Mull, was my dresser. She was the Elphaba dresser for many, many years. And they all are there to make sure that the actress feels supported. Mm-hmm. And, what does she need? Because it's a bear, and everyone who has sat in that chair knows what it's like to feel like you're running on fumes and you're about to run a marathon. So they take really good care of their people. And I just felt like the support of company management and stage management, really great group over there.
Awesome. So you were there in New York with the show for a while. Was the transition to Chicago pretty seamless from that? Was it like a direct one-to-one, or was it like, oh, hey, I'll go try this as well since I've already got some experience?
Well, what the great thing about Chicago, as opposed to New York was delightful. It was really hard. I was the standby, and I went on. Within 14 months, I think I'd gone on around 160 to 180 times. There would be times when I would be up in my dressing room, and I would hear the knock and the, hey, Lisa, get your nails green. There was actually a signal that they would just kind of mime painting my nails, and that meant, oh, okay, I'm on.
Wow.
And this would be in the middle of the show. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes actresses might get to Wizard and I and realize, oh, my voice isn't there for the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. I can get through this, but I am not well. I don't have it. So this was not commonplace, but it definitely happened several times over the course of 14 months. And anyone who's ever done the role will understand why. If you feel at all sick, or if you feel like your voice is at all compromised, it's just not possible. You have to be at 100%, or you could really do some damage. And the standbys were strong. If I may be bold enough to say so, we were, and the standbys are talented people who could do it. So why put yourself through, something when you have 20% of your instrument that day, when they have somebody with 100% of their instrument backstage who can serve the story. So sometimes I would get that signal right after Wizard and I, or even before it was over, because maybe the actress would say something to Nessa Rose, like on stage, like, please tell stage management that I will be leaving the show after blah, blah. And it was, I can't remember which point of the show it was. I can look it up in the script. But there would be a moment where Elphaba would walk off stage and she'd come right back on stage. And then, so the actress would leave the stage and I would come on in green. And they had the process down to 7 minutes. So from the time that I would get to the chair to get makeup on to walking on stage, they could do it in 7 minutes. But it was insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So I always made sure I was warmed up just in cases. And so in New York, there was always that sense of anything could happen at any time. And I never knew when I was going to be on unless there was a planned vacation or a planned absence. And then right from New York, I think I had a week off. I went to the Caribbean for a good rest and relaxation.
Yeah.
Some recovery. I ate whatever I wanted at this all-inclusive place. I'd never been to one of those, and I needed to gain weight. Actually, I had just done a full-time month in New York in the show, and I had lost some considerable weight because I didn't realize how many calories you burned doing it 8 times a week. So I lost a lot of weight quickly. My girlfriend calls it the Elphaba diet. And then I don't recommend it. And then I went to Chicago, and the part was mine. So the dressing room was my dressing room. I could have what I needed in the dressing room. I had my own private space to rest between shows. That was mine, and I didn't feel like I was borrowing someone else's room. I also knew that I was going to be doing this many shows, so I sort of wasn't on edge about what was expected or what might come up. I knew what was going to happen. I had 8 shows a week to do that week. And if I needed to, I could take a Wednesday matinee off to set myself up vocally so that I could do the whole rest of the week and not feel depleted. And I think it's really important, I'm someone who goes to work. I go to work, that's my thing. I go to work. And with Elphaba, what I find humbling is that I needed to learn how to take care of myself, even if that meant that recognizing that I'm a human being and that I could go to work and do these 8 shows this week, but then next week I might be in a position where vocally I can do 6 shows that week, and then I feel like I'm swimming upstream all week. So I learned how to self-monitor and take care of myself, and I also ate a huge cheeseburger with sweet potato fries every single day. And I never gained a pound because the number of calories that Elphaba burns is, I swear, it's just unmatched. Except for some of these. I mean, obviously, I think that the elf and ensembles in most Broadway shows burn at least that because they work so hard. So it was a seamless transition. Also, in Chicago, the stage was not raked. And on Broadway, the stage was raked, which means that we worked on a hill on Broadway, and they still do. The Gershwin stage is still raked. So you're on a hill all the time. And on Chicago, we had a flat surface. And the difference between working on those 2 surfaces is night and day. Everything is easier on a flat surface. All the singing was easier. Also, it was a smaller playing area, so it was less of a football field of a stage. So instead of running 8 paces downstage at the end of Wizard and I down a hill, I was stepping forward 2 paces on a flat surface and finishing the song. So everything was just easier. And also just knowing that the part was mine was easier as well. I also got to do it full time with a great friend of mine, Annalie Ashford, who people may recognize the name, is quite the star and such an incredible delight to work with.
Awesome. So we've discussed a lot about sort of the the exterior life of the play. In terms of the actual interior aspects of it, how did you find your sort of relationships developing with like your cast and crew and director and such? Because I know for those who haven't worked in like professional theater, I imagine it's pretty different from like, a lot of young people who, make a lot of friends and shows in school or community theater. So what did that kind of look like for you?
Well, Wicked was an unusual experience for me socially because usually I develop very close friendships very quickly. Many of them are sustainable over years, or at least are acquaintances of mine, colleagues of mine that I love dearly. There's plenty of opportunity for talking backstage, visiting people in their dressing rooms, making sure to reach out. And when I was playing Elphaba full time, my door was closed. I needed every ounce of energy I had. And so I didn't really get to know people. And on Broadway, I was the standby, so I did have more time. And I would go talk to people on the green room, and I would even clean the microwave because it was always like somebody just had their stroganoff explode in the green room microwave.
Classic.
So I was always cleaning it and making, just conversation with anybody who was in there at the time, and I met some really terrific people. One of my predecessors in Wicked, Julia Murney, was a friend of mine, and she had an open door always and bowls of candy because Elphaba is alienated. She's isolated. She's alone in the show, and we, as actors, we feel these types of we feel this. We feel the character and her life vividly. And so she had an open door, bowls of candy, which would attract all kinds of people, and cast, crew, management, and she loved having conversations. I would stop by and say hello to her all the time. And for me, I needed to preserve, I'm a closed door kind of person. Because of that role specifically, my social interactions with people were limited during the show, even before the show, after the show. And, out of the show, I was basically living as a hermit and silent most of the time. Now, I just did Dear Evan Hansen, and with that show, it was so much easier for me to sing. It's a really good fit for me. Definitely the songs aren't as challenging. The role is intense emotionally as well as vocally. But there's no comparison to Elphaba. I think that Elphaba goes down as one of the most difficult and challenging roles of all time, just like the role of Evan Hansen is. There are those roles which just basically say, okay, your whole life is preparation, performance, and recuperation. That's it. Prepare, perform, and then recover. And then we do it again the next day, sometimes twice. So for Elfie, I met the greatest people. I got to know the dresser really well, the hair and makeup person. I got to know Anna Lee really well from working with her in Chicago. And I love the people I met, absolutely. And once in a while, I would be able to go out and have a dinner. I remember in Chicago, one of our cast members playing Morrible was Rondi Reed. And she had just won the Tony Award for August Osage County. And she has gone on to, she was at Steppenwolf Theater Company for many, 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 many years. And so she took us to see Superior Donuts when it was at Steppenwolf. And she took us all to dinner. And so I remember once in a while I would have social interactions and events happen. Mostly though, my life was just being quiet, steaming with my face in a personal steamer, warming up, and going to the acupuncture, getting massage therapy, chiropractic care. Really just my whole life was the show because it's just that kind of demanding role. And I really wanted to have as much of my instrument and energy for the show as I could. I remember going to grad school and saying to my new colleagues, look, I'm not here to make friends. I hope to make friends, but I'm really here to learn. And that's how I sort of feel with jobs. Like, I'm really here to do the show. I'm here for the work. And then all these wonderful people and friendships that develop, that's a bonus. I'm kind of all about the work.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Um, in terms of the work, um, I'm curious about in the world of the play. This is maybe just something I haven't gotten to in my acting track yet, so this might be a kind of a basic question, but I'm curious about the nature of immersing yourself in highly conventionalized may not be the right word, but like unusual or like alien circumstances, right? Obviously, this is a world where magic is possible and people can have green skin and there are witches and dragons and stuff. Um, I'm curious about, is there a unique method that you use, or is it pretty simple to kind of immerse yourself into that alien or fantastical world?
I think for me, I would do this written work, and I just come back to that. And so I would ask a question. Amongst my questions might be, have I seen flying monkeys before? What have I heard about Shiz University? What does it look like? What do I see when I arrive there? What are my living quarters like? And so if I make that real for myself through the use of my imagination and I write about it, for some reason it just starts to feel more truthful to me. And then I would do that for everything, whether it was having animals as teachers, the whole thing about the lion cub, and the relationships with Bach and Nessa, and just I would write extensively about these things and make them real for myself on paper, which was through my imagination, so it was in my head as well. So then I can just keep it real simple. What am I? Who am I? Where am I? What just happened that moment before? What do I want? From whom? What's in my way? Obstacle. And what actions do I take to try to get what I want? And then if I know those things, the moment I walk on stage and I'm in the space within this world, it gets really simple. Mm-hmm. I've loaded myself up with all that homework, and I'm there to get what I want, and I'm there to listen and respond and be in the present moment, going moment to moment to moment, looking, watching, listening, and responding, having a point of view, which is happening just naturally based on the homework, and being in the moment, and really listening and responding, and really trying to get what I want, really using tactics and not just paying lip service to them, or doing it the same thing I did last night. Yes, there's consistency that is needed in a show, especially of that size. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I can't be alive and in the present moment. So it really just comes down to the foundational acting training of knowing those given circumstances, spending time with the character. I would often spend time as Elphaba just doing the dishes back in my hotel, like I'm in my apartment in Chicago, or here at home. I would pretend, and I would have conversations in my head, as Elphaba with, when I see Fiero, I'm going to say that I would just think about her a lot, and it becomes really just like any other role, is that I know what I want, I know who I am, I know where I am, I know the given circumstances, and I'm just going to enter that space and try to get what I want, and be in the moment and really listen and use the tactics. I remember in a rehearsal with one of my dearest friends who was a Glinda cover, and she still is, I think. Everything's on hiatus right now, but she's tremendous, and we actually got to go on with each other, and we've like best friends. It was so sweet. And she was in the scene with me, and I remember going after her in this big scene where we have this fight, and she looked at me with such surprise, and she was terrified, and she was like, that was so fun to have that kind of experience and surprise and being knocked off center in an understudy rehearsal. And I said, well, what do we do it? Like, let's do it. If we're going to do it, let's do it. And so all of that understudy rehearsal helped enter the world as well. And I think just keeping it really simple then, doing all the homework, and then like any other show or scene rehearsal, where just entering the space and being there and trying to get what I want and really listening.
Gotcha. Cool. I'd love to hear, I guess, to kind of bring things to a head here about, I don't know if you learned anything through this process, or if I guess the rigorous sort of Herculean athleticism of it being one factor, of course. Was there anything you took away from the character? Did anything about it leave a lasting impression on you, or even just the process itself?
Absolutely. I think, for one thing, I became a much kinder critic. So it's very easy to critique other artists. And I think when I started working in leading roles, that's when I realized, and the ensemble of Jesus Christ Superstar and the Woman in White as well, but specifically with leading roles, you never know what somebody's going through, and you don't know what it's like to do 8 shows a week, week after week after week after month after month. Mm-hmm. No one can know until they've done it. And in a role like Elphaba, one cannot imagine the toll. And we're so lucky when we get to do it. And I don't think there's a lack of gratitude. It's just there's a deeper understanding of what people go through. Because the average audience member or critic who's on the message board sitting in their pajamas at home, anonymous, what they don't understand is that right before the show, at least a half hour, because that's the rule, they might have gotten 5 pages of notes. Right. And they might be slightly contradicting from yesterday's notes. So you have actors who are implementing notes, who have injuries, who are fighting off a cold, who have a whole life outside the show that they're contending with. Some of them are parents, and who feel lucky to be there. And you just never know what somebody's going through. Mm-hmm. So when I go see a show and I think somebody might be having an off show, or they don't seem quite present, I am just so much more generous in my own head. Like, I know what it's like, sister. I know what you're going through. Mm-hmm. Who knows what just happened? So it's made me a kinder and more generous audience member and colleague to people. I also learned from Elphaba just the importance of having strong convictions and a strong sense of social justice. I also learned about self-care and that I don't have to be perfect, that I can't be perfect. I learned not to read reviews, and I learned not to read the message boards.
Right.
And if you've heard me say this before, what other people think of me is none of my business, but what I think of me, my life depends on it. And what I mean by that is what I tell myself about me and my abilities or my limitations and so on and so forth has a direct effect on my self-esteem, which has a direct effect on what choices I make in moving through my life. Mm-hmm. Giving myself real chances, giving myself the training I need and want, giving myself some grace on moments where I'm really messing up and making a mistake, or just wanting to live under the covers that day. That can really change the course of one's life, how we talk to ourselves. So that taught me a lot about I can't be perfect, because perfect isn't possible in Wicked, in this role, for me at least. Others maybe can achieve it. But I learned how to give myself some grace and how to take care of myself and self-monitor in a way which would allow me to do my best work without sacrificing my own mental or physical health.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lisa, so much for joining us on this this fine episode here. Any closing thoughts? Anything? Any lingering threads that didn't get mentioned?
I think that I just want people to know that when depending on who your demographic is of listeners, but when I was a younger woman, and definitely still in process of development as an artist, I had no belief that I would ever get paid a dime as an actor. Even though I was doing extremely well at conservatory, I just couldn't imagine it. And the moment that I started to allow myself to imagine and really focus on my training and the preparation and skill developing in order to work, and really believing like I may have a place at the table. Yeah, I think I have a place at the table. The minute I started to believe in myself, things started happening. So just know that it can be very slow and steady progression from oblivion to working as an actor in this industry in whatever genre, whatever field, whether it's voiceover, theater, film, television, devised pieces. Just be patient with yourself, but don't get complacent. Keep swimming, so to speak, and have some grace for yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us on this episode. And we're going to go ahead and close out the show. All right. Thank you so much to Lisa Brescia for coming on this wicked-tacular episode. A reminder that CurtainCast is a production of Luminous Studios, and I am your musical theater luminary, Stephen Horn. You can check out shirts at bit.ly/Luminous merch, and now down in the YouTube description, you can pick them up there too. So if you're watching this on the VOD, just pop down to the description and you can head right there for some fantastic CurtainCast merch and some other merch for our other fantabulous shows on the network. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and thank you to Ben Sound for the use of our intro-outro song, Downtown. Fabulous little ditty there. You can follow me on Twitter at TaxiFish with a PH. You can follow the show at The CurtainCast. Thank you to Missouri State University for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, Luminous Studios. Check out the other Luminous Studios shows we've got going on right now. We've got Critical Creation, Dead Ends, History Nugs, Video Shames, Cast Quest Cast, all sorts of fantastic shows. There's a little something for everybody here on Luminous Studios, so be sure to check it out. And I believe that is curtains for us. Check your feeds, because another episode should be coming out soon. And remember, treat every night like it's opening night. See ya!
Look, there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's basically no time to consume it. How are we supposed to know what to check out first and what's safe to ignore? Well, at long last, there's a podcast devoted to exactly that. The Best Thing Ever is a brand new show about systematically determining the best thing ever. On every episode, 2 items enter and 1 leaves, moving down the bracket towards that elusive title. After we've covered everything that exists, we'll come back for round 2. It's a long-term project. Check out The Best Thing Ever, launching this Christmas on Luminous Studios or wherever podcasts are found.